Hey everybody, Charlie and Will back here to talk about our next subject. Last time we got into why you should buy now despite the current interest rate environment. We really believe that uh, owning a home is, especially we're here in Texas, like we're going to hit on that a lot, us being in Texas and taking advantage of the market here. What we wanted to kind of talk about today was all the reasons why your home is a good investment. So we really want to look at when you purchase a home, even if it's like your first purchase, it's for your, or maybe it's going to be your forever home. You still want to look at it as an investment and how what those returns potentially could be. So we're going to kind of get into it and kind of discuss all those little different reasons for owning a home and considering those investment opportunities when you get in there. So, Will, what's the first reason or first investment opportunity do we want to talk about today?
Yeah, I think the first one we should talk about is going to be principal pay down. When you're buying a house, obviously you're borrowing a lot of money to buy that house, but principal pay down per year, you're lowering how much you really owe to the bank. And principal pay down is a big part of it. We're also going to talk about appreciation, especially being in Texas.
Yeah,
Appreciation here is anywhere from 3 to 7%, 5%, 6% is probably a good. It's a good basis to consider right now.
right.
There are a lot of people moving to Texas, so 5% appreciation with your principal pay down. You're coming out way ahead when you buy
Yeah,
now, as opposed to waiting for interest rates or whatever you're waiting for. That appreciation more than uh, makes up for maybe a
yeah.
temporary higher interest rate. So
Correct. Yeah, and
we'll talk
yeah,
about this one.
and we've seen we showed the data last time that um, appreciation, especially in Texas, is very consistent. And we're
Yep.
you're not going to there's not a big risk on the value of that home going down. I mean, unless you're buying like some super unique property, but if you're doing that, you're buying a property for to live in forever because that's what you want. But if you
Yeah.
look at it from a perspective of, we talk about exit strategy, and we'll get into a
Uh-huh.
exit strategy more down the road, but how will this house perform on the open market down the road as well, right? Like when I want to sell it in 5 years, how is this property going to perform? And most of us are going to be in homes that are common to the area, right?
Yeah.
They're very similar to the other homes in your neighborhood, so you'll see that appreciation. So what kind of scenario do you have as far as just to give us a good example on principal reduction?
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And we've got this is from mortgagecalculator.org. It's a great website to take a look at, what your payments are going to be. But you can also click on the amortization table and really take a look at what your principal pay down is going to be every year. So this is a $300,000 house with a 10% down payment.
Okay,
So even though at 20% you don't have to pay that PMI, the mortgage insurance on it.
right,
But at 10% you do. It's not that much, but we're just going to say a 10% down payment, 7.5% interest
yeah,
rate. Could be up or down a little bit right now. Property tax at $5,000 a year, home insurance at $2,000 a year. Um, so we're going to go down. The payments just under $2,600, and yeah, that's more than it was, a year or 2 years ago. But when we start really looking at principal pay down every year, it starts to add up. Your balance is dwindling every year,
right,
and every year you live in that house, your principal pay down goes up, right? And the amount of interest that you're paying per year starts to go down. So really, when you look at it as a long term investment, like you were saying, after 10 years or so, you're paying a lot more into that principal than you were the first couple of years. So uh,
right,
that combined with the balance, the principal pay down, so your balance is getting a lot lower, and then you add in 5% appreciation every year.
right, right.
That's how you let real estate, build some wealth for you.
Correct. So you purchase a house for 300,000, you already, you put 30 grand into it just based on this scenario.
Hmm.
And then it's what, 2,500 bucks, you know, to $3,000 each year, initially
Yep.
of principal. reduction, and then we're talking about a 5%. We're just using that as a baseline. It
Yeah.
could be more depending on the area.
Oh yeah.
And we're in, like we said last time, like you're in North Houston, you're in Houston, I'm in San Antonio. We're in good markets. Now after the first year, your house is worth 315, and then your loan balance is probably like 266.
Yeah.
Right.
267.5 right here.
Right. So now after the first year, by you owning your own home, you have increased your equity by about 18 grand with the
Yeah.
principal reduction and then also the appreciation. So
Yeah.
that's the investment that you're making in yourself by owning that home, right? And that's just
Yeah.
after 1 year.
Yeah, and that's 1 year exactly. I mean, the compounding effect of owning it for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, the average length of a home in which you own is 7 years.
Yeah.
So if you own it for 7 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's see, 247, I think that's it right there. So
Right.
after 7 years, 5% appreciation, you're probably reaching, I don't know,
Yeah.
420, 430 in value. And
Right.
your principal pay down, you're down to 245, give or take, 240. I mean, now
Uh-huh.
you're at $180,000 in equity.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're spending maybe another $500 a month, $400 a month, maybe with this, but you multiply that over 7 years and you're coming out way ahead
Way
by
ahead.
owning for 7 years and doing that
Correct.
principal pay down and acknowledging or taking that appreciation of 5%. So, and we
Right.
haven't even gotten into tax savings.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and that's something that you should talk with your tax professional about. We are not tax professionals, but real estate does provide you with a lot of tax savings opportunities.
Right.
So take
Yeah.
advantage.
Correct. Yeah.
Um,
That's the one thing they changed a couple of years ago was when they reduced, or no, they took away some of the deductions. They took away the mortgage insurance, or the PMI. They took away
uh,
that deduction. You can't write that off on your taxes anymore, but you can write off the mortgage interest and the property taxes that you pay on the property. But the key is, again, consult your tax professional. I did before this. The standard deduction is, if you're single, it's $12,000. If you're married, it's $24,000 per year. So that's where a lot of people are, where you may not get over that standard deduction. So if you don't own a home, you probably aren't over that deduction right now. You definitely aren't. Like, there probably is not enough write-offs you have to get over 12 grand or 24 grand if you're married. But what we're seeing now is that if you purchase a home and, even though rates are a little higher right now, that actually may kick your total write-offs above those standard deductions, right? Especially if you're single. If you're single and the standard deduction is only 12 grand,
yeah.
like, that's where you add it all up, you add all the deductions that you have on your taxes. And if it's less than the standard deduction of like $12,000, if you're a single person, then you just take the standard deduction, right? Like, of course, I'm going to write off 12 grand off my taxable income instead of like $9,000, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just a given. But if hypothetically, let's just say you have $17,000 worth of deductions, that's over the standard deduction. So you'll go ahead and take that itemized list. And, if this is all hypothetical, again, consult your tax consultant. But if you make more than, like, once you start making over $90,000 a year,
Yeah. Then
the
your
tax
tax
rate's
is 22%,
22%,
right? Yeah.
right? So, like, let's just say that standard deduction, that extra $5,000 that you're over the standard deduction, let's just say that brings your taxable income down from, like, 110 to 95, right? Let's
Yeah.
just say something like that. Then the extra $5,000 over the standard deduction that you have is actually, saving you about $1,100.
Yeah.
Straight up $1,100 on your taxes. So you'll get either $1,100 back, or you'll pay $1,100 less. Isn't that
Yeah.
hypothetical, right? So that's where we really want to say is just, talk to your accountant about it too. Like, if you're really thinking about buying a home, and you can pull these amortization tables up with these interest rate calculations, and you can ask your accountant, like, hey, would this actually be a good idea for me? Would it help kick me over these standard deductions? And it might be yet another value add on top of just the
Yeah.
normal principal reduction and appreciation that we see,
Yeah, and
So
when you think about that, if in that situation, everybody's situation is different. So in that
yeah,
situation, that's another 90 $95 a month that you're getting back.
right,
Essentially, that if you're paying that much over what you would renting or whatever situation it is, then you can take that off of what you're owing. So
right,
um, it all adds up. So really, the point is to consider everything. There are a lot of things to consider. So try to, talk with us. Let's schedule a mortgage strategy call. If you have any questions, let's go over everything in detail just to make sure we're not leaving something on the table
yeah,
that could be, reducing essentially your monthly spend.
right, right. So yeah, then of course then you parlay that into, like, let's say your first purchase is a converts to a great rental property, right? If if you have if you have the stomach for being a landlord, right, you also need to consider that too. But like, let's say that have your first property is not your forever home, um, it converts to a great rental property, then you could potentially see some cash flow off of that. Um, but the idea is, and I see this a lot on our tax returns when I'm, helping clients purchase a home, whether it's an investment property or not, but they have investment properties. They see that Schedule E is you you structure it to where you got money coming in, you got money going out, you have some other write-offs, depreciation on the home, stuff like that, where you can where your accountant, again, consult your accountant when you're doing this too, where you almost have a zero tax liability on an investment property. And so now you have someone else who's contributing that $3,000 per year in principal reduction,
Yeah.
and that home is growing in value, all while someone else is making the payments, and you have a zero. It's always going to have some
Yeah.
cash flow, but you want to make sure on paper that it's a zero tax liability. And then when we look at it from the mortgage side, it doesn't help or hurt. It's there. It's a wash.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect your ability to go and buy another property because you've got this mortgage loan that's actually being washed out by the rental income that, and the how your accountant structured it. It's washed out that payment. So
Yeah.
it doesn't affect the debt ratios at all.
Well, yeah, and I think we were talking a little earlier, and I think we're going to try to get into the investment property side of it a little bit more, kind of our next podcast or next episode, whatever we call it. But there are a lot of things. If you have a low interest rate in a home right now, and you're worried about getting out of that because of the low interest rate, well, if you have the stomach to be a
Yeah.
landlord, then be a landlord and get appreciation on
Yeah.
two houses instead of one.
Right.
And
Right.
and guys, I have two houses in the Woodlands, and the quality of renters I get are the highest quality. They take care of the houses so well. There's this mindset that being a landlord or having renters means that you're going to be at the house Saturday nights fixing toilets. I mean, that's just not how it is. At least for my, maybe I've gotten lucky over the last couple of years, but I've had a lot of great people living in my houses, and they sometimes they take care of the house better than I would. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're great. I've had a
They don't
lot
want
of
to lose
great
that deposit,
families.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I most of the time I don't even worry about the deposit. So,
Yeah.
um, but no, it's not that bad to own homes. But I'm to get appreciation on multiple homes, that is the way to build a lot of wealth over time.
Right.
And you're getting that pay down. Somebody else is paying your principal pay down. Somebody else is paying your interest. And if you can cash flow on top of that, then
Right.
that compared with the taxes, I mean, it's four legs of income. So
100%.
we'll talk about that
100%.
more
Yeah.
kind of on the next time. But
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
get
I
into that a
mean,
little bit,
guys,
little bit more. So,
yeah,
and the cool thing is that that you can actually use the equity that you've built up in your property.
Yeah.
You're allowed to. So like us as mortgage professionals, we are allowed to use the cash pulled off of one piece of collateral to put down on another. So if you've purchased a home, like let's say you purchased a home 4 or 5 years ago, and you like, you know what, this is a great rental property. I've made some. I've got a lot of equity in it now because I've paid the loan down. Plus, there's a lot of appreciation. I want to buy my next home. You can literally pull cash out of that, whatever it would be, 30 grand, 40 grand, whatever it is. And we actually, you go to your local bank, your local credit union, you get yourself a second lien. And then you take those funds, we account for the new loan, obviously in our calculations. And then you put that money down on the next house. So now you've literally used the collateral on one home to put down on another. You're just transferring the equity over. Nothing's out of your pocket at all.
Yeah.
You just use that natural appreciation, and you paying the loan down instead of renting and throwing the money away. It's gone into your little piggy bank, which you're now using to buy the next house. So, and then as we go further and further and further, you've built up a rental portfolio, and perhaps you do this several times, or perhaps it's just, this is our first home and now we have 2 kids. So it makes sense for us to upgrade, and this is going to be a great rental property. So we do that instead. Right. So, if you, again, like you said before, if you have the stomach for being a landlord, right. So, it's not for everybody. We want to make sure that, you're aware of that, but the potential is there's a lot of different options that we could get into that you could potentially, maximize to your benefit. The key, like Will said, is consult your accountants, and then also consult us, consult your mortgage professionals on, okay, is this a good game plan, and lay that game plan out and then execute it. Right. Like
everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
So we need to know the situation you're in so that we can help advise in the right direction.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes the right direction is, let's do it. Let's build this portfolio. Sometimes the right direction is, I'm just going to sell my house. I don't really want to do that. I've made some good money, that kind of a thing. And, I'm going to put 20% down on this next house. So now I don't have mortgage insurance. Even though my rate's higher, I've gotten rid of that $150, $200 a month in mortgage insurance. So there's a benefit there too. Right. Mm-hmm. So, if you're upgrading, don't only look at the rate, look at the total potential.
The package,
the cancellation of MI might help to wash out the increased interest rate. And then maybe, since you're paying a little more in interest, maybe you have a higher tax deduction on your taxes. So then it actually ends up being even more of a wash. You never know. Like you're saying, every situation is different. So we really, and as you can tell, we could come up with scenarios all day long. And, we want to keep it to 15 minutes and not an 8-hour podcast, right?
Yeah. So, hey, we can keep going all day about this. So.
Heck yeah. So, but
I mean, the point is to consider all factors, and really, it's principal pay down, appreciation. Those are just powerful things to consider. So don't just let the interest rate be what's deterring you from, pulling the trigger.